Hey everyone, welcome back to Genai World News. We're kicking things off with a major escalation in the Middle East that has the whole world watching closely. Both BBC News and the Financial Times are reporting that the United States and Iran have carried out yet another round of military strikes near the Strait of Hormuz, and this marks the third known escalation between the two powers in just one single week. That is a staggering pace of conflict. Now, according to BBC News, both sides are confirming they launched fresh attacks in the area, though each is, of course, framing the situation very differently. Meanwhile, the Financial Times reports that behind the scenes, Washington and Tehran are still actively trying to hammer out a formal ceasefire agreement. So you've got missiles flying on one hand and diplomats talking on the other, a dangerous and delicate balancing act. The Strait of Hormuz, for those who need a quick geography refresher, is one of the most critical choke points for global oil supply. Any sustained disruption there sends shockwaves through energy markets worldwide. The Financial Times also notes that economists are cautiously more optimistic that the inflation shock from this conflict will not reach the levels seen after Russia's invasion of Ukraine back in 2022. But that's cold comfort while the strikes are still happening. We'll be keeping a very close eye on how ceasefire negotiations develop. This one is far from over. All right. Shifting gears now to the world of tech. And this is a big one for anyone who cares about the future of personal computing. As reported by the Financial Times, Nvidia has just unveiled what it's calling a PC Superchip, a powerful new semiconductor designed to run directly on personal computers and, crucially, built to power artificial intelligence applications. And here's the kicker. It's being paired with Microsoft Windows, which means this isn't some niche developer tool. This is aimed squarely at the everyday consumer market. Nvidia is positioning this chip as a direct challenge to both Apple, whose in-house silicon has dominated the premium laptop space in recent years, and Intel, which has long been the backbone of Windows-based computing. That's a bold swing, and it signals just how aggressively Nvidia is moving beyond its traditional stronghold in gaming graphics cards and data centers. The timing here is fascinating. The Financial Times also notes separately that Intel is fighting back, announcing plans to release its own AI-focused graphics processing unit by the end of the year, with Intel shares already up more than 200% in 2026. So the AI chip race is absolutely heating up, and consumers could be the big winners as these giants battle it out. For anyone keeping score, the age of AI-native personal computing may be arriving faster than most people expected. Now here's a headline that would have seemed almost unthinkable just a few years ago. According to the Financial Times, SoftBank has officially overtaken Toyota to become Japan's largest company by market capitalization, ending Toyota's dominance of that top spot, which had lasted for more than 20 years. What's driving this? AI. Pure and simple. The global appetite for artificial intelligence stocks has sent SoftBank's share price soaring, and investors are betting big on the company's massive portfolio of AI-related investments. SoftBank, led by its famously visionary and occasionally controversial founder Masayoshi Son, has long positioned itself as a vehicle for tech bets, and right now those bets are paying off in a very dramatic way. Meanwhile, Toyota, the automotive giant that has represented Japanese industrial might for decades, finds itself dethroned. It's a powerful symbol of how rapidly the economic center of gravity is shifting from traditional manufacturing toward technology and artificial intelligence. For Japan, this is more than just a corporate milestone. It raises big questions about the country's industrial identity and where its future economic strength is going to come from. The Financial Times notes this moment as a landmark shift, and honestly, it's hard to argue with that assessment. SoftBank sitting atop Japan's corporate ladder, that is a sign of the times. We turn now to a deeply troubling story out of Southeast Asia. BBC News is reporting that a massive explosion has killed dozens of people in a rebel-held village in Myanmar, located close to the country's border with China. According to insurgent groups operating in the area, the blast was caused by explosives that were being used for mining operations, not a deliberate attack. But regardless of the cause, the human cost is devastating, with dozens of lives lost in what appears to have been a catastrophic accident in an already incredibly dangerous and unstable region. Myanmar, as many of you know, has been locked in a brutal civil conflict since the military coup of 2021, and large swaths of the country, particularly border areas like this one, are controlled by various armed resistance groups rather than the central government. That reality means emergency response is severely limited, medical resources are scarce, and the true scale of tragedies like this one is often very difficult to confirm from the outside. The proximity to the Chinese border also adds a geopolitical layer to this story, as China has significant economic interests in Myanmar and has maintained complex relationships with both the military junta and some of the border-based ethnic armed organizations. Our thoughts are with the victims and their families. We will continue to follow this story as more details emerge. Back in Britain, Prime Minister Keir Starmer is reportedly steeling himself for what could be a very uncomfortable Monday, as the Financial Times is reporting that a tranche of documents connected to Peter Mandelson, the UK's former ambassador to Washington, is set to be released. Now, why does this matter? According to the Financial Times, these files are expected to contain private messages exchanged between Mandelson and members of the British cabinet. Mandelson, for those less familiar with British politics, is one of the most influential and frankly controversial figures in the labor movement. His diplomatic communications from his time as ambassador in Washington could shed light on sensitive conversations at the highest levels of government. The timing is particularly delicate for Starmer's administration, which has been working hard to project stability and unity. Any revelations that expose internal divisions or awkward backroom conversations could become ammunition for political opponents. We don't yet know the full contents of what's being released, but the FT's reporting suggests that insiders are already bracing for impact. In British political circles, a Mandelson-related disclosure is never taken lightly. This is a man with deep knowledge of power and how it operates. Monday could be a very interesting day in Westminster. Fascinating political news now from South America. BBC News is reporting that Colombia is heading into a presidential runoff that really couldn't be more dramatically opposed in terms of ideology. On one side, left-wing Senator Iván Cepeda, a longtime human rights advocate and political figure on Colombia's progressive left. On the other, Abelardo de la Espriella, who has been openly described as a Trump admirer and represents a very different vision for Colombia's future. The final ballot is set for June 21st, and the contrast between these two candidates is stark, touching on everything from economic policy and security strategy to Colombia's relationships with the United States and its neighbors. BBC News notes that this is shaping up to be one of the most ideologically charged elections in the country's recent history. Colombia, Latin America's fourth-largest economy, has enormous significance for regional stability, drug policy, and trade. Whoever wins on June 21st will inherit a country still grappling with internal conflict, inequality, and the complex legacy of its peace process. The world will be watching. Now let's talk NATO, because the Financial Times is raising some important alarm bells about the alliance's internal cohesion on one of its most critical issues right now: defense spending. According to the FT, NATO leadership is increasingly worried about what they describe as a splintering of unanimity among member states when it comes to committing to higher defense budgets. The alliance has been pushing hard for members to meet and exceed the 2% of GDP spending target, a goal that became even more urgent after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But getting all 32 member nations to stay aligned on that commitment is proving to be a genuine challenge. Some nations are pulling ahead, ramping up military investment significantly. Others are dragging their feet, either due to domestic political pressures, budget constraints, or simply differing threat perceptions. And when you're an alliance built entirely on the principle of collective defense, cracks in unanimity are not a minor administrative issue. They can undermine the very credibility of the pact. With tensions elevated across Europe, from the ongoing war in Ukraine to the Baltic states' security concerns, the Financial Times reporting here is a timely reminder that NATO's strength is only as solid as the political will of its members. That will is currently being tested. And we're going to close out today's show on a much lighter note, because this story is just pure fun. BBC News is reporting that fans of the legendary actress Marilyn Monroe have set a brand new world record by staging the largest ever gathering of people dressed as the Hollywood icon. And the occasion? What would have been Monroe's 100th birthday, a centenary celebration for one of the most iconic figures in entertainment history. Hundreds of Monroe lookalikes turned out, all channeling that unmistakable blend of glamour, poise, and sparkle that made Monroe a global phenomenon. It's a remarkable tribute to just how enduring her legacy is. A full century after her birth, she still inspires this kind of devoted, joyful celebration. For many fans, this wasn't just about costumes. It was about honoring a cultural figure who broke boundaries, captured imaginations, and left an imprint on cinema and pop culture that has genuinely never faded. What a way to mark 100 years. Happy birthday, Marilyn. All right, everyone. That is a wrap on today's edition of Genai's World News. If you found this useful, do us a favor and smash that like button. It genuinely helps the channel grow. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now so you never miss a day of global news. We'll see you next time.